There is one thing I am looking forward to. I don't know if you'll be able to pull it off, but you've already surprised me many times on PandaMonium. So this one's a big one for me, and I think you might be the man to pull it off.
Okay.
When will the interview be with Sagata Sanshiro? When will that happen? Surely you'll be able to have a translator. You might even learn Japanese yourself. I'm not going to put it past you. But when's it going to happen? Can we have that exclusive on our show today?
I can't for sure say when. It's definitely on the wish list, though. It's definitely something I want to do, and I feel like it's becoming more of a possibility as time goes on. So I don't even know if and when it will happen. But I do want it to happen, and it's becoming more possible. As long as that dude doesn't croak, we should be fine.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, if for those who don't know who Sagata Sanshiro is, he was the Lord and Master of the Sega Saturn advertisement campaign in Japan. Yeah. His adverts that he was a part of are some of the funniest and best video game adverts anyone has ever seen. Just go check it out.
Flip you and explode you if you don't play your Sega Saturn.
Or move the goal if you try to shoot a goal. He'll right. It's go check it out. It's like 20 minutes of constant hysterics seeing what the Japanese had for advertisements, and no wonder the Saturn sold better in Japan than anywhere else after those advertisements. But he's a well-respected cult classic kind of actor in Japan, and he's a big name, and he appears all over the place.
He acted in Kamen Rider, or he was either Kamen Rider or Ultraman, and
I get it mixed up too. Yeah,
but the actor is Hiroshi Fujioka, for those wondering. And yes, I did have to look that up just now to remember his name. But yeah, it was Kamen Rider that he was in, and that's what he is primarily well known for in the world of Japanese cinema. A lot of Kamen Rider stuff. And he still acts every now and then. He's still in the occasional action or drama movie. You'll see him every now and then. So.
Yeah. It'll be great if you manage to pull that off. No pressure, I know. But you've already promised everybody now that that's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So you got to make it happen. But no, check that out if you haven't. And again, that's another great part of the Sega Saturn's history, and something that you constantly call back to on PandaMonium on the episodes. So if you want to be in on the joke, you got to watch those as well to understand that. So yeah, we're now going to move on to things about the Sega Saturn, your personal opinions and things like that.
I wanted to ask. I'm always fascinated with not everyone. Like, we all try and be adults, but at the same time, we all really like toys. And I wanted to ask: what is your favorite sort of thing that you've got on your shelves? And another question sort of is, what's the sort of holy grail? What's the thing that you want, but you know that you ain't gonna be buying anytime soon, you know?
Right. Yeah. The thing it's a lot of video games on my shelves. There's really not a lot of other like nerd stuff going on. Like, I got a Virtual Boy.
Which there was that Xbox 360 I can see there, and Wii games.
Yeah, and some Japanese GameCube games.
You got a Virtual Boy and a Pokemon N64 in the background there.
Yeah. Yep. Sure do. A second Saturn, because I gotta have two.
The white one as well, the Japanese one.
Mm-hmm. Some of that stuff, my wife's really good at gift shopping during holidays. She got me like the Virtual Boy, and one of the things she got me that I'm really happy about is this pack of Nintendo playing cards from the 60s. We're pretty sure it's from the 60s. It's kind of hard to nail down exactly when they came out, but every time I open this, I feel like it's going to disintegrate and explode into a pile of dust. But yeah, it's just like back before they did video games.
Proper Nintendo
cards.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm married too, so this is not an advertisement for the ladies out there. But ladies, find yourself a gamer. We're really easy to buy for, and 20 years in, there's still stuff we want. So you'll never ever have problems.
I'll never run out. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just grab yourself a gamer and make your life easier. So yeah, moving on to stuff about the Sega Saturn, and let's get the easy one out of the way.
Sure.
If you had to pick one Sega Saturn game as your favorite, difficult, I know, what would it be and why?
Darius Gaiden.
Really? Awesome! I never would have guessed that. What?
Yep.
Are you very much a kind of shmup bullet hell kind of fan then?
I do like shmups, really like the Darius series, but Darius Gaiden was both my first Saturn game and my first Darius game, and I just loved both things instantly. It was freaking fun first time I played it, and it's still really fun to play now. A really good marriage of 2D and 3D, super colorful. It's got giant mechanical space fish that shoot lasers at you. What's not to love? It's a great franchise.
When you hit that screen clearing nuke, I mean, be careful with seizures, because my goodness, there's a lot of flashes.
Photosensitive warning for that.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, but such a great game, and really well made. And the other thing that doesn't get a lot of praise for Darius Gaiden is the multiple pathways that you can. Yeah.
There's like 20 or so levels, like 27, I think, if I remember correctly.
It all push the Saturn in different ways of what it can do. So yeah, I have a newfound respect for you. I didn't think I could have more respect for you, but out of all the games I would have guessed, all your usual ones, Darius Gaiden, great choice.
Thank you.
Do you have any like your favorite stories of the Saturn? I.e., when you first came across it, did you buy your Saturn at the time of when it first came out, or did you pick it up later? What tell us about that story?
This might make me lose some street cred. I was born in 1994 when the Saturn first came out. So, and then I grew up as a PlayStation boy. I didn't get into it until I got into retro games, which was like around 2010, 2009-ish. It was while I was in high school. Really got into retro games, learned about the Dreamcast, got into that right away. And then I found out about the Saturn and looked into the games for it, and I was like, oh, geez, this is like the retro gamers ultimate machine right here. It's got really good looking sprites, really chunky, terrible 3D games. Like, I'm all in. Got a chip mod from Racket Boy at the time, back when they did chips, and basically spent dozens of weekends burning game after game on crappy Sony CDs, and just couldn't stop. I loved it. Yeah, it's a great machine. It's got a lot of good content on it, and it's a really unique console, I think. There are few like consoles nowadays that have their own personality, and back then every console definitely had its own look and personality, and the Saturn was definitely like always fun. It was like walking down an arcade hall. It's always a good time.
So true. I think one of the biggest appeals about the Sega Saturn is it's hard to nail down and explain it in words, but it does have its own personality, its own vibe.
Yeah.
From the moment you turn it on and you see the hub with the spinning spaceship, which you didn't need to go to that much detail. Sega, PlayStation certainly didn't when you fired up this hub. But I think the first game I played on the Saturn was Nights into Dreams, and seeing the FMV sequences, that was my first full motion video that I came across, that sort of blew my mind as well. It's probably a good job, Nick, that you weren't born in Japan, because even as a baby, Sega Santro probably would have thrown you and said you should have been playing Sega Saturn, even at a 1-year-old. So
I would have been destroyed. Yeah,
you dodged a bullet there. You dodged a bullet.
I did. No kidding. There's a good quote from Edge magazine that someone posted, I think, to the Saturn Junkyard, and that I screenshot and saved, where it says, "The Saturn, casualty of the second generation, is neither 3DO nor Jaguar. It boasts arcade conversions that Namco rivals but rarely beats, classy RPGs, and support from offbeat developers like Treasure. It is, in short, the hardcore gamer's machine of the 90s, and in this sense, Sega's failure is also its greatest triumph." I think that pretty much perfectly describes like what that console's like.
Poetic justice. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. It is a great console. Just very quickly, because I know by the sounds of things you've really gone into depth and played quite a lot for what's on the Sega Saturn. What's some of your fondest memories from what the Sega Saturn has and what it's sort of given you?
There was a high school sleepover I had where a bunch of guys came over and we all played Saturn Bomberman. I think we got up to 7 players at a point in time. And then we, got very little sleep that night, as usual for any type of gathering like that. Woke up the next morning, made pancakes, and played more Saturn Bomberman whilst eating the pancakes. And I'd say that was probably a fun memory of the console. And just anytime I get to introduce someone to, a really good game on it and they've never seen it before. Probably the more recently, I've got a buddy in town who is big into retro games, big into like NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo stuff, and brought my Saturn over on his CRT projector, and we fired up Bulk Slash. And he was like, "This is fucking amazing! This is great!" And we like both took turns and just beat the game in one night. Basically, it's a short game, but like his first time playing it, and we just couldn't put it down. And now he's a proud Saturn owner with the satiator and all. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Nothing else looks like the Saturn because of what.
Right.
Taking Bulk Slash as an example, where everything was very heavily polygons on the N64 and PlayStation, they would have treated that game very differently. For people who don't know what Bulk Slash looks like, it's mainly 3D backgrounds, but everything on the foregrounds is polygons. Is pixels. So
it's 2D and 3D put together, and like even the floor is like a 2D plane stretched out, kind of like Mode 7 on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
done through VDP2 on the Saturn. Does a lot of stuff like that.
That's it, and it sounds like a horrible mess when you say it out loud, but when you actually see it in motion and done well, and you can see it just gives. Again, the Sega Saturn a personality. It looks very different and feels very different.
Exactly. Like that game would have looked totally different on N64 or PlayStation.
Totally.
It would not have looked remotely the same.
Yeah. So yeah, just check out some of the ones that are on there. And looking at what is coming out for the Sega Saturn or has been released, Shining Force 3, again, is another good story of where the first game was released in the majority of the world, from what I know. It's a 3-part RPG saga where you have save files and the story continue over onto parts 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. So unlike your Square Enix, which most people are obviously familiar with when it comes to RPGs, where you get multiple discs in one, this particular one was a massive RPG on one disc, and then there was a part 2 and part 3 for you to get the rest of the story from different points of view. The Sega Saturn community has translated parts 2 and 3 and released that over here. Police Noughts is another good one that is been translated and moved over. Vandal Hearts, my wife particularly fond of that on the PlayStation, interested to sort of compare the ones on there. There's so much to look forward to and what the Saturn can do and how it looks so different on the Saturn. What are you most looking forward to, or what, if you had to pick a few games you'd like to have translated? I've just seen your jaw drop. You're like, oh, I wish you didn't ask me that. what are you looking forward to the most? What should people translate next for PandaMonium?
I'd say that a lot of the stuff I wanted translated has been done, which is terrific. Soccer Wars, Castlevania, which I thought would never happen, but it did. Grandia, Silver Star Story, stuff like that is already been done, which is amazing. And a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't have tried had I not seen that they were translated. Like Linkle Liver Story is a really good one to check out. Yeah. If I had to pick any game, though, to get translated right now, it would, and some people who are familiar with my videos know the answer to this question already, it would be Omakase Savers, which is this very little-known Japanese Saturn game. It's like think Magic Knight Rayearth's gameplay style, but it takes place in like this little town, and there's these 3 girls who've got superpowers, sort of like Powerpuff Girl type stuff, and they go around like hunting cartoony ghosts. But there's like a ton of like live acted FMVs woven in throughout the game, and the battles all have FMV scenes that play out when you do attacks. And there's just like a lot of good comedy bits in it that I don't really understand because I don't, speak or read Japanese. But it's a very endearing game and very fun. That's surprisingly easy enough to play if you don't speak the language. But being able to understand all the jokes and dialogue would just open it up that much more. And I think more people would be able to check it out. That was a weird game. Even in Japan, it wasn't very successful. They really wanted it to be successful. It was like a Sega first-party thing, but just never took off. So, yeah.
I've not heard of that one myself, actually, so I'm going to educate. You've done it again, PandaMonium. You've added another thing to my list. You've done it again. I'm going to chuck mine in there just to sort of see, because I think I'm the only one asking for this one.
For it.
I want somebody to take a look at Street Fighter 03 and translate that. Now, when I say that, and I have said it in the Saturn Junkyard before, people jump on me and go, "It's a fighting game. Why do you want to, translate?"
Right? Yeah.
People have already done it. Yeah, it takes a lot of work to do. You're just being selfish and stupid. You don't understand. But Street Fighter 03 on the Saturn is the best version of that game. One of the best 2D fighters that Capcom's ever made, and it has an
So good.
RPG mode where you go through a story around a world tour, and all the item you can equip items on your characters, and all of those are in Japanese, and very difficult to work out what the items do and stuff. So I would love the complete best home console release of that game fully translated. Please, somebody in the world, Hey you! Yeah, you! Do you like video games? Do you like kick-ass characters? Do you like action and adventure? Then you should go to RagingDestiny.com and get your copy of Raging Destiny, an action-packed fantasy fiction today. A novel written by a gamer for a gamer. That's right, written by me, Bill, from Pop Culture Pause Screen. It's a non-stop thrill ride with in-depth characters that very well could be your next favourite franchise. There isn't any slowing down in this book, oh no! Every chapter is designed to keep you reading and wanting to know what happens next. You can find out more at RagingDestiny.com, and I thank you in advance for your support. Now, back to the show.
Someone should do it,
Yeah, one day. We'll get there everywhere. Maybe once you've finished every other Saturn game.
Someone will get around to it.
They'll get around to it. Are you good? So, technically, I suppose this uncovers quite an interesting thing about your job, because it hasn't stopped. Even when you do all the North American releases, technically there's still North American releases happening today in 2022. So
right,
you've still got to cover these new releases, right? You've got to do that too.
The homebrew and patched games, like, absolutely, I'll have to. Some of them might get covered when I go over the canceled games, because things like Castlevania Symphony of the Night had planned North American and European releases.
Yeah.
But the localizations just got canceled. When I get to that point, say I get to Castlevania, I'll be talking about the translated patch and everything like that.
Fantastic.
And then, once I somehow get to episode 246, and there will still be Saturn games to cover after that point. So, yeah.
Excellent. The job never stops. Don't make this man stop working.
Making games, right? Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Put food in this man's children's mouths by keep releasing games, so he's got more work to do.
Was there ever that desire either from the beginning, or is this something you're looking at later, where you want to cover maybe some releases outside of North America, whether that's European only stuff, or whether that's Japanese sort of releases?
There's some good European games I'd like to cover. Like, there's this go-kart racing game. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a European go-kart game for the Saturn that I really want to check out that I'll probably wind up making a video about. And all the really popular Japanese games that didn't even have a hint of coming out in the West, I'll probably at some point make bonus episodes about. Like, I could see myself going super in-depth on an Omakase Sabers video at some point. It wouldn't really fit anywhere in the series or in the timeline, but I mean, those types of side projects I would like to get into more.
Because I know personally, one thing I'd be interested in is obviously because your writing style is so captivating. Maybe like some sort of retrospective on what the Saturn was like, but in other countries, like just a video on what it's like in Europe, what the Saturn's release like was in in Japan and stuff like that. I think be interesting to see the different perspectives throughout the world, because they are so drastically different, especially in Japan.
They are. Portugal, it was extremely popular in Portugal, and
Really?
it was actually seen as the winning console there for a long time. And Spain and Brazil, it was very popular there too. Portugal.
I love Brazil because they do have good taste over there. Because I think the Master did really well
What was
in
that
there as well.
Brazilian only console? It was called like the Zebo or something.
Yeah.
I just remember this absolutely dreadful port they did of Resident Evil 4 just for Brazil. And it looked like it was running on like the PlayStation 1. It just looked absolutely
I'm not surprised.
disgusting.
They get a lot of weird stuff like that. It's great.
So we talked a lot about the Sega Saturn and going into it, but you also mentioned you were a PlayStation kid and you like the N64 and stuff. Is there kind of any ports? Obviously, Resident Evil 2 is a big one that didn't come over to there. Was there any ports you'd like to see from the PlayStation that should have come over to the Saturn besides the obvious?
The Tomb Raider sequels, for sure. Because Saturn got Tomb Raider 1, and now that Open Lara is getting ported to the Saturn by someone in the scene, I can't remember who, that will open up the floodgates for Tomb Raiders 2 through 5 to get put on the Saturn at some point. So that is something that should have happened back in the day and is now feasible. That is now something that can probably happen within the next 2 or 3 years. And like you said, Resident Evil 2 really should have come out. That would have been really good. But one thing I really would have liked to see, and this probably, due to the timing of it, it just wouldn't have happened. But I always wondered what the Tony Hawk games would have looked like on Saturn.
Yeah.
They ported it to N-Gage, which looked so weird. But because if you can port it to the N-Gage, you can port it to the Saturn. So
yeah, no, I'm down with that. Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, that'd be quite interesting. And let's face it, if you're going to do that, then you've got the Sega licenses. You could have put some Sega characters in there as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can imagine Tillis from Burnham Rangers pulling off some jetpack jumps on a skateboard. I'd be all down with that. That'd be awesome.
I know personally, I'd like to see because Suikoden. I recently played through Suikoden 1 and 2. I know the first game was put on the Saturn, but the second game wasn't. So with them both having like a thing where you can transfer one save from one game to the next, I think it would be great having them both on the same system, because like Suikoden 2 is like one of the best JRPGs sort of ever made. So
that would be good. And that's also another game that should be translated, because Suikoden did not get localized in the West, for the Saturn at least. And the tech's all out there, so that would be good. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner would have been a good localization too.
So many great games. And Mike, you just proven you can be saved, because after all these years not playing games, you pull out a gem like Suikoden and you shout it on the podcast in front of PandaMonium. You say, there we go, we are working.
Yeah, he's learning.
We're getting in there.
Slowly.
He's going to play some Sega Saturn soon. We're going to turn him around on that. I thought this was a good intro for him as well. But also shout out to the Sega Southern Gentleman for his coverage on Resident Evil on the video. If you want to know all about Resident Evil 2 and how it could have been on, or how it even might be out there in the wilderness somewhere, is a great channel to do that.
Old Samwise of the South. Yeah, he's real good. He hasn't made stuff in a while just because real life has gotten him busy. But yeah, his content's superb.
Super good. The differences with the PlayStation, you just out of interest on what you said earlier, you were a PlayStation fan, you then played the Sega Saturn much later, and now you prefer the Sega Saturn. In your words, just because I constantly fight this battle with the community that we have, because you all played the PlayStation, you all made that terrible mistake, and I'm forgiven. I forgive you all for making that terrible mistake. I don't judge you. We'll leave God to sort that out. But when it comes to the Sega Saturn, what made you say, okay, this is the better console, this is my preference, shall we say, in the end?
It was far more interesting. The library was crazier, and the look of the games were way different, I think. You get a lot of good 3D games on PlayStation 1. Good 3D for the time. But you get a lot of good color palettes and really artistic creations, and much stronger 2D games, or games that at least use 2D stuff in some form on Saturn, and a lot more arcade ports too. I think that was another big thing about that library that makes it stick out. It was an arcade lover's dream machine for the 5th gen.
It's also loads of genres, isn't it, that don't get a lot of love. Maybe not so much nowadays. I find bullet hells and shmups are kind of coming back, especially on the Nintendo Switch. There's a lot of love for those there.
The Saturn had a lot more than the other machines at the time.
Yeah, that's right. Too. Yeah. Fighting games and things like that. And when it does do things in 3D, it just, like I said, makes it look interesting and different. Plus, I think the controller is one of the best controllers ever made.
Absolutely.
Especially for fighting games. My thumb does not hurt when I play them. For you Dreamcast fans out there, just to segregate the audience, because our little show can more than happy to live without the Dreamcast fans, which please don't leave, we need you. The D-pad on the Dreamcast always used to cut my hand in comparison to the lovely smooth silky Sega Saturn controller. Stuff like
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, great stuff. Awesome. Mike, any questions?
No, I was just going to say, I think a lot of Saturn games did actually end up having more content than the PlayStation versions. Like Symphony of the Night had, which thankfully they've added to the PlayStation 4 re-release, but Symphony of the Night had, you could play as Maria, which wasn't in the PlayStation version. And I think Suikoden has a few extra sort of secret dungeons and things like that that weren't in the PlayStation 1 version. So there was quite a few different games for the Saturn where they added more content than was in the PlayStation 1 version. So
I think you could you get Maria in the PlayStation version if you unlocked it?
You could get Richter, but I'm pretty sure you couldn't get Maria.
I don't think Maria was in the PlayStation 1 version. I might be wrong. Richter for sure was, but I think Maria was at the time only on the Saturn. And there were also like a small handful of extra areas of the map that were only on the Saturn port. And like Mike said, they've since been brought back. But
see, I think that's a good thing. Is like for anybody who sort of says, "What's the point? Why does it matter?" Because you've already got these on different consoles or re-releases and stuff. It's very rarely that you get the Saturn port of anything because of its architecture. So going back and playing the Saturn version is interesting just to see what they did different or how it ran different or what extra content they had and things like that. Along with its exclusives, which are still exclusive. Fighters Megamix and Burning Rangers and all of that stuff that probably will never get a release anywhere else, good or bad. You've still got Bug, which is there. But even other ones like unappreciated classics like Clockwork Knight and stuff like that.
Or Astral doesn't ever get any attention or modern remakes nowadays.
Exactly. They don't even appear. They don't even appear in like in Sega's racing games or marketing or anything. Those characters, so it's fascinating to go through there. Well, I think that's everything we've got for you, Nick. And thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's been a fascinating look at behind the scenes about what you do and things. And we really appreciate all your work in the Saturn community, and for you guys that listen to this show in my own community, at the OLL team, and all of that kind of stuff. There's a whole world of things that PandaMonium can give you and sort of open up to, and sort of say, well, if you like retro, here's something that's really interesting and different. So we really appreciate what you do, Nick, and long may you continue on the mammoth of a task that you set yourself.
Well, thanks. I'll always need a hobby, and this will ensure that I always have one. So,
where can people find you if they want to sort of follow you on social media, and what is your YouTubes and bits and places like that?
Yeah, so YouTube, it's just look up PandaMonium reviews every US Saturn game on YouTube. Twitter, it's PandaMonium_GR. It used to stand for game reviews before I, specified just Saturn stuff. And that's pretty much all the stuff I do on social. You should check out Sega Saturn Shiro, or sometimes referred to as Shiro Media Group, on YouTube for weekly Saturn news. And shout out to Sega Extreme, the website / community, for doing a ton of translation and homebrew stuff for the console. That's kind of the hub if you're looking to get into patches or translations or homebrew. Sega Extreme with like an X Treme. That's the place to go.
Excellent, fantastic. Your content's fantastic. We can't get enough of it. We look forward to the next video and seeing what else you can teach, especially the virtual cop one, because that's one of my personal favorites.
That should be a good one. It's gonna be giant though, just morning. So
no, that's good. That's good because like if it's big, you've got loads of facts in there I don't know about. So that's changed. If someone else that I watch on YouTube brings out an episode that is like an hour long, I kind of go, wah! But when it comes to PandaMonium, when you bring out, you're like, oh, brilliant. That means there's some facts in here that we didn't know about. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You want to make it a day long? I'll book the day off. That's fine. We'll check it out.
Great.
So, but yeah, that's sorry, go on, Mike.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think for someone who, like me, who is completely blissfully ignorant of a Saturn, kind of like Sega, actually.
Oh God, there's just one day we'll save you, Mike. We'll get you there.
But I'll say that like I'd say that even if you don't really know about the Sega Saturn, it's such a great channel to listen to, because it's almost like it feels like every episode, it almost feels like it's one everlasting documentary documenting this console. And like I've said earlier in the podcast, like these really obscure games that nobody would think about, have these like little moments of just joy in them, or of just these absolutely stupid, ridiculous things in them. And it's just such a great study of just gaming in general. So I think even if you're not initially interested in the Sega Saturn, I still think it's worth listening to the channel, because I still think it's captive. I came in watching the odd episode, but then I just found myself just binging sort of throughout the whole thing because it was so interesting. So I definitely recommend, regardless of your interests, to give it a go regardless.
Great on. Well, thank you guys for the kind words and for having me on. I always am surprised at how many people outside the U.S. watch the channel. I try to make it not like super duper America geared, but yeah.
That's some of the best parts when you bring in the American Eagle and stuff. I know that's when it's there, it's just the timing is great. Yeah, love that. But help this man if you've got information on the Sega Saturn. If you're hearing this around there, do get in. I'm sure you're open to be in touch.
Absolutely, yeah. Reach out to me on Twitter, business emails, on my YouTube account. Feel free to reach out if you got anything, especially if you're a person who developed Saturn games and want to talk about it. So. Definitely reach out.
Awesome. Just closing moments now. What are you playing at the moment, Nick?
Virtua Cop for sure. But as for other games and other platforms, just kind of looking over just to try to remember. I recently got a 32X, so I've been and an EverDrive, so I've been playing a lot of just random 32X games, and that's just been a ton of fun. Working my way. I recently beat. I think it was Ice 9 for the Game Boy Advance, which is a crazy old school first-person shooter released in 2005. Anytime you get a 3D game on the Game Boy Advance, you're in for a good time. Gonna play some Fallout 76 with my wife here in a little bit, so because that game's actually decent now. It took a few years, but they finally improved it. That's pretty much it at the moment. Oh, and doing a lot of steep slope sliders. I've been playing a lot of steep slope sliders for the Saturn.
So there you go. If you didn't have anything after this very long podcast to talk to Nick about, you now have a plethora of stuff you can open the conversation with. So go check him out on social media and say hi, and help this man out so he can do some of his great content. But for now, we are done with talking, and it's that time again, Mike, as we always do.
It is.
It's the time for us to stop talking and go play some bloody games.
It is. Let's go play some games.
Let's go play some bloody games. So thanks again to Nick and PandaMonium, and we'll see you next week for another episode on Pop Culture Pausecast. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Pop Culture Pausecast. Check the channel for other episodes, new podcast every Wednesday. Or, if you're one of the cool ones, you can watch some of my other videos right here on Pop Culture Pause Screen, or maybe catch me live on Twitch every Monday from 7 PM UK time. And show some love to my partner in crime, Mike, over at his YouTube channel, Mike Ritiques. Link in the description. He does some great game reviews, he really does. And if you want some action, adventure, and kick-ass characters in your life, then go over to RagingDestiny.com and get a copy of my book, Raging Destiny, a novel for gamers written by me, a gamer. You won't regret it, and I appreciate your support. That's RagingDestiny.com. You should have links to all of this in the description below, or on screen now for you to click. But for now, it's time to stop talking and go play some bloody video games. Catch you next time.